Okay, we're back again. Just recapping, we've learned how to configure and to use OBS Studio, as well as how to set the containers types, the encoders, and some of the parameters for the encoder we used, which was HEVC H.265 from the MP4 container NVENC version. We also learned how to extract the audio to Audacity in order to filter any ambient noise, as well as how to normalize the audio volume, and then we saved that to a WAV file. And now the last step is to use Kdenlive in order to edit the video, and after editing, render it again. Remember that we have rendered already a first time when we recorded the stream. So while we were recording, we were at real time also rendering the recorded video to a certain format that we chose using NVENC HEVC encoder. And now that we're gonna edit both the audio and the video, we have to, of course, render it again so that we can create another output file with those editions using Kdenlive. So we render a first time at recording, then we edit, and finally we'll render a last time to create the final video output. So as with OBS and Audacity, for installing Kdenlive, you just go to the store and look for Kdenlive. Here it is. You just click and ask to install. In my case, I have it already installed. So let's just open it. And in this first video about Kdenlive, I'm just gonna show you some general configurations and the interface environment of Kdenlive. And on the second video about Kdenlive, I'm gonna show you the rendering configurations, the containers types you may choose, as well as the encoders and also the parameters you can choose by using both standard as custom configuration profiles in order to render your edited videos. But first, let me present you a general view about Kdenlive. First, the pronunciation is not Kdenlive, it's Kdenlive. And second, this is the basic view of the software. Here on the left side, you have a project bin, which is where all the imported files will be shown in order for you to bring to the timeline if you wish. Here is the effect composition stack, and here are the compositions and effects lists. For every composition or effect that you bring to the timeline, it will appear some configurations for that composition or for that effect here on the left side. So you just keep the project bin for managing the imported files. You keep the view for the effect and composition stack, and you also keep the compositions and effects selection window, because you make use of these all the time. But in case you close any of them, for example, if you close here, you can go to the view and check again the window for it to appear again. You can also change the width of any of them. You can move them around. You can put them one over the other. For example, here we've put the effect composition stack over project bin, but I actually don't like it because we'll make use a lot So it's better to keep this as default. Here on the right you have the clip monitor and the project monitor. The clip monitor shows the files, content, and the project monitor shows the timeline content. And here below is the timeline where you bring the files that we import here, and you can use more than one layers. For example, here I've configured to use 3 video layers and 2 audio layers, and where you also apply the transitions or compositions and effects that you want over those layers content. But before we create an example project, some example files, videos and audios for showing you how to bring them up to the editor timeline here, let's first go to the settings and set the default configurations here, so that every time you create a new project, these configurations will be selected by default. So here at the MISC tab, you actually don't have to set anything, but here on project defaults, you may choose, for example, the resolution and FPS of the project you want to create. By default, it comes with a full HD resolution of 30 FPS, but we'll choose 4K ultra high definition, 2160 progressive with 60 frames per second. Okay, the scanning, you always select the progressive. The interlaced option is kind of obsolete, so you always set the scanning to progressive. If you want to check the difference between progressive and interlaced images, you can check that on the internet. The FPS is already set at the profile, but you can also set here 60. And in the case of the resolution, remember that the recording we did at OBS originally had been 1K, but now we are gonna upscale to 4K, so our project will be set as a 4K project. And here you can set the number of tracks or layers for the video. In our case, we've set 3 layers, and for the audio we've set 2, but you can change that and set whatever number of layers you want. As we are making only a simple project, we'll let 3 layers for the video and 2 layers for the audio. Here you have the custom project photo setting. I have already set to my home videos. For setting any different folder, you just select here custom project folder, open file dialog, and you navigate until the folder you want. I prefer to set to my home videos. Here is the encoder for the timeline preview, and as we are using NVIDIA Graphics Card, you can set the encoder here to NVENC H.264. This is not the encoder through which the video will be rendered. This is just the encoder for the preview of the project monitor here, the preview of the content we have at the timeline, and the container encoders and parameters for those encoders. In the case of the rendering, we'll set later when we show you the rendering configurations. So here is just the preview rendering. It has nothing with the final rendering. It's just a temporary rendering for showing you the preview at the preview monitor. Next, in case your machine gets too slow for previewing the video at the project monitor or at the clip monitor, you can check this option, enable proxy clips, and select here the options. And what this will make is to pre-render a temporary video for the monitor here to play while you edit your video, but it also is not the final rendering. It's just the pre-rendering of the preview of what is going to be played here at the monitor while you edit your video, because for very complex editions or for very slow computers, it's kind of too demanding to play these videos while you're editing. So if your machine gets too lazy in playing the editions before the final render during the edition preview, you may select this enable proxy clips in order to lower the resolution temporarily while you finish the edition and include all the transitions and effects you want. And later, the final resolution will be the one we've selected at the project or at the rendering options here. This is just also a temporary downgrade or downscaling of the resolution of the clips for the edition preview. Next, at the timeline, I believe there's nothing here to set. If you want to alter the height of the tracks, you can alter them here. Now at the environment, here is the MLT or melt environment, where FFmpeg program and its configurations are set for Kdenlive. Kdenlive has its independent FFmpeg, so the FFmpeg that OBS uses is not the same FFmpeg that Kdenlive uses. And here you have the default folders. You may leave the temporary files at the /temp. The capture folder, if you wish to do any capturing, you may change that to any folder you want. And also you can change the library folder, but you can also leave that as default. Here is the number of threads that Kdenlive will use from your machine for rendering or pre-rendering the clips that the monitor will use for previewing your editions. It also has nothing to do with the final rendering of the project. The number of threads that the final rendering will use will set at the rendering configurations. These number of threads here are essentially the threads for the clips or for the preview of the edition content at your monitor. Okay, next you can set the capture configurations if you are intending to make any capture using Kdenlive. In our case, we did with OBS. OBS is much better for capturing and for configuring the capturing, but as a last resource, you can also capture your screen using Kdenlive as well. Here at the playback, you shouldn't change anything. In the case of my machine, I tried to use this GPU processing playback, but it just crashed the application, so better not select this option only if you want to try, but then you gotta reset the application in order to use it again in case it crashes. And this option here has also nothing to do with the rendering of the final video, which is the most time consuming process. You see that depending on the encoders we use, the same way as with OBS, the NVENC encoders will automatically use your graphics card. So this one option here is only for the playback and has nothing to do with the rendering. So you don't have to select that. And here at the transcode, also you don't have to change anything unless you wanna make any specific transformation of your video. But in case of transcoding videos, maybe it would be better to use FFmpeg from the console terminal. So these are the basic options we gotta set as our default. And now finally we can start a new project with the default options that we have already set. I'll just change here the project folder to videos, my home videos. And here we are creating a Kdenlive project. Add this folder of 60 frames per second of 4K 2160 progressive resolution, and again of 60 frames per second with 3 video tracks and 2 audio tracks. And for the preview we're gonna use the H.264 NVENC decoder. Okay, here is our just created project. If you see here, it's a 4K ultra high definition 2160 progressive 60 frames per second Kdenlive project. And now what we have to do is to bring to the project or to import some videos and audios in order to bring them to the timeline and make some example editions on it, and on the next video render that to the final video output. So as an example, let's bring to the project or import the first video of our screen capture, which is this one here of 6 gigabytes. And as we've been planning to do, let's also import the edited audio of the same video that we edited using Audacity. So here is the original video and here is the edited audio. If it asks you if you wanna change to another profile, because it automatically detects that this original video is not a 4K video, it's a 1K video, but we wanna create a 4K project, so you can just refuse the suggestion and we'll keep with this default 4K profile. And then you just drag the video here to the timeline. Although by default it appears the original video and audio together, we'll have to ungroup the video from the audio in order to delete the original audio and then join the edited audio that we created on Audacity with the original video, being careful to keep the same timing for both. And then we group them together again, pressing Shift and clicking on the other track, and then clicking the right button and selecting Group Clips. So now the clips are grouped again, but now the original video and the edited audio with all the noising eliminated and the volume normalized. Okay, so now we can edit this set of video and audio. Okay, so now for edition, we have basically three tools here. The selection tool, which you can select with the S shortcut. The razor tool, which has the shortcut X. And the spacer tool with the letter M as the shortcut. So the selection tool is for you to move the clips around. That's basically a move tool. You can dynamically alter the clips like this. For example, if you don't want the whole clip, or when editing any part of it, you can just bring the border here and the other border also, for example, until here. And then when you set to the rendering, it will render only this part here. And another thing you should do is to always keep this at the beginning of the timeline. If you leave it here, for example, it will consider all this blank time, and you have many minutes before the clip starts playing at your rendered video. So you should always keep the first clips at the beginning of the timeline. And another thing we can do is cut parts of the clips. In this case, the clips are grouped, so it will cut both the video and the audio clips. Example here. If we wanted, for example, to delete this part, we could use the razor tool for cutting the part we wanted to delete and select the part and simply press delete and bring then the remaining parts together. So that's the common process for eliminating parts of the video and audio. And in case you have, for example, let me make many cuts here. Okay, in case you wanna move some clip part along the timeline, and if you want to move more than one clip section, you can press Shift and with the mouse you select more than one sections at once so that you can move it around. And this is exactly what this third tool does, the spacer tool. If you press and move some clip part, it will move all the other parts. That's the same effect if you had used the selection tool and pressed Shift and selected all the clips sections together for moving them all grouped along. If you want, for example, to apply a fade out and fade in effect, for example, it's at the image adjustment. Here it is, the fade in and fade out. Let's, for example, apply the fade out to this clip. You can just drag it to the clip section that you want to apply. So we have dragged the fade out effect to this clip section. So at the end of this clip, the fade out is going to be applied. And let's apply the fade in to the next section. Okay, and now we'll bring them together as this. And let's play here at the project monitor to see how this effect will behave. Okay, as you see, it worked fine. You can use the scroll up and down from your touchpad, for example, and it will move the timeline to wherever you want. So let's put the marker here. If you zoom in, you can see that we have here the two transitions that we've applied to this section of the clip and to this other section of the clip. In both cases, only at the video clip, not on the audio one. So if you wanna apply also on the audio, you gotta set here the audio correction, fade in, fade out. So let's fade out the first one and let's fade in the second one. Okay, so now we've applied the fade in and fade out both for the video as for the audio at these two consecutive parts of the clips we are editing. And now let's see how it worked out. Okay, so it worked out as we wanted. If you wanted to alter the timing for the effect, this fade in and fade out transition, you could just press the clip that we are editing and alter the time here. If you wanted, for example, only 3 seconds, we would just select the parts of the clip and then alter here. Now the audio one, if we wanted, you can let different times for the video and the audio according to your needs. I'm just showing you how to set this time here if you wanted also. Okay, let's play again. Okay, it's nice. This is one of the many effects we have, either for the audio as for the images or the videos or the video. Let me just show you another very used one, which is the wipe effect. And let's apply on the same clips and sections of these clips. So let's exclude the fade in and fade out. For excluding an effect or transition, you just look for the trash icon here at the effect and you press to delete. So now we are deleting all the fade in and fade out effects in order to apply an example of composition. Here are the effects and here are the compositions. And also there's a way for you to import more effects or compositions. You can look for how you can install different and additional plugins at Kdenlive to increase the number of effects available. Here are all the effects we have by default, but you can also add additional plugins for additional effects if you want, both for the video or for the audio, as well as for new compositions for your clips. And as an example of composition, I'll just show you the wipe one. So you just also bring it here and adjust the timing of the composition. I'll bring it to the other side also. And for the wipe composition, you also have here on the left side the configuration. And for selecting the wipe method, you press here and you have many sorts of wiping compositions patterns that you can use or even download. And let's just set this one here on the left side, and on the right side let's choose another one this burst one. Okay, now let's play the preview. And that's the two wiping compositions we added. If you want to delete, you just select. If you do not find the trash icon here, is because you can select with the right button and press delete. Okay. And a shortcut for the fade in and fade out transitions is you to move the selection tool to the right corner here, both at the video as for the audio clips. And if you press here at the top right corner of the video clip, for example, you have the default transition effect set at once. And if you want to regulate the timing for it, you just go here and do like this. Here on the right side is the same. The default transition is the fade in and fade out. So if you press here, you will automatically set the fade in and fade out for these clips sections. If you want to work with the other layers, parts of the clips, you can import other videos or audios, or even cut some other part of the current clip and just drag it to the other layers. For example, if we wanted to make a transition here between these two videos and audios, we would just put them like this, and we would apply some effect. For example, the fade in and fade out also. So I'm not gonna show you all the effects or compositions you can apply. I would have to make another lecture for that. But basically, this is how you organize things at Kdenlive, as well as set the general configurations for your projects. So, on the next video, I'm gonna show you how to configure the rendering options for your edited video and audio in order to output the final video result. And then I'll show you again, as we did with OBS, how you can set your video type or container, as well as the encoder you wish to use for rendering or for encoding your final video, and also the parameters you should use, at least for the main encoders available. So see you next lecture.